Hello, everyone. Welcome to Transylvania. My name is Gloria Anderson, the director of Experience Transylvania, the tour company organizing these very exciting tours to Transylvania, among other destinations, all connected in one way or another to the novel Dracula. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we have along Nora and Dacre.
Hi everyone, my name is Nora Micuvintila. I am a local tour guide and I will be responsible with the itinerary and the beautiful historical places that we're going to visit on this tour of Transylvania related to Dracula, which leads me to the fact that I'm always stoked to work with Mr. Dacre Stoker.
And thank you, Nora and Gloria. I'm Dacre Stoker, author myself, and also the great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, author of Dracula. And I'll be the one sort of putting this whole thing in literary context, filling you in on places we go, why we go there, connected to both Bram Stoker's Count Dracula and also the historical Vlad Dracula the Impaler. So climb aboard on the Gloria and Nora Express. You're bound to have a great time.
Along the way, we are also going to share some of the memories of the latest tour we had this summer of 2023. So you will see some of the pictures are very professional because our colleague, our professional videographer, Colin Hamilton, took very good footage and photos of our tour. But some of them are taken by our guests, by ourselves, which are a bit, let's call them genuine. So they are not maybe as clear, they're a bit shaky, but they are authentic. So you see both sides of the story. The agenda for today is a little bit about Transylvania, this region, this legendary region of Romania. And then we try to put the Dracula connections on the specific sites very briefly. More details, of course, will be revealed along the way during the tour. And then we go through the itinerary of 2024. As I said, mentioning or showing some of the memories of 2023. So from the previous tour that we had. The tours have their red thread. They are similar, but we improve them from year to year. So we update them. Then we will go a little bit through hotels to see an overview of how we partied the overnights during the itinerary, and then we go to booking details so you know how to join us. Before that, let me just allow you into this wonderful, magical landscape of Transylvania, just through a little bit of music, some pictures, some atmospheric pictures, and then we will dive into the matter.
All right, so going on with our presentation, here in front of us, we have a map of Romania, of nowadays Romania, because we are going to see that a century ago, it was a totally different story. But here on this map, it is very obvious what Jonathan Harker also said in the novel Dracula. He mentioned the horseshoe of the Carpathians. And he did mention that word on the streets, to paraphrase the quotation from the novel, was that all the superstitions of the world have their birthplace within the Carpathian horseshoe, and if so, Jonathan Harker's stay in Transylvania will be very interesting. Let's get to the name, Transylvania. Where does this mystical name come from? It actually comes from Latin, and it means the land beyond the forest, which is also the name of a very important book that served as an inspiration to Bram Stoker when he was talking about the superstitions and the habits of the local people, and much more than that. This book, the inspiration that Bram took, is called The Land Beyond the Forest by Emily Gerard, a Scottish writer who was stationed in Sibiu, which is where I live, and which is one of our points on the itinerary. So we are going to visit Sibiu. So Transylvania, Terra Ultra Silva, The Land Beyond the Forest, and the Emily Gerard connection. Right, Dacre?
Absolutely. It's incredible how Bram never went to this country, but there's lucky that people like Emily Gerard gave him the information he was seeking to make the superstitions seem very authentic.
Indeed. And you are going to see quite a lot of sceneries like this. Forest, Transylvania still bears its name proudly, and it is still very much so the land beyond the forest. Now, I was telling you that the actual map of Romania was that you just saw. This one that we have in front of us right now tells us the history of Romania before 1918. A brief overview, because Transylvania used to be part of the Hungarian Empire and not of Romania, whilst Wallachia and Moldavia, which are the other historical regions of Romania, they pertained to the Ottoman Empire. So quite a lot of history there between these two giants of Europe.
And we see, as this history unfolds, the guy on your right, Vlad the Impaler, is really tied in very closely with this history and his battles with the Ottomans that Nora will tell you about shortly. I'll talk, though, about the character that was inspired by, in part, by Vlad Dracula the Impaler, Bram Stoker's Count Dracula. He did a tremendous amount of research. He looked into a couple of different libraries, two of them in particular, the most important ones being the Whitby Library, where he found a book by a guy called William Wilkinson and another by James Samuelson in the London Library. And that's where he derived the information about this Vlad Dracula, because he was very famous even outside the region that Nora's going to talk to you about. But this is sort of what I really bring to this tour is the context of what Bram knew about the country, where he got the information. And let me just tell you, there's a number of brave travelers that went out there in the late 1800s that wrote very detailed accounts of the country, the customs, the geography, and so on. So you'll get that perspective as well. But Nora, why don't you talk a little bit about Vlad himself? Because everybody thinks he was a vampire, and certainly we know he's much more than that.
Oh, he is much more than that, Dacre. And first of all, to the Romanian people, he was either, and still is actually, either a hero or a villain. Some people do have mixed thoughts about him, but his ruthlessness helped him gain partially the nickname Dracula, which eventually led to Bram Stoker taking the inspiration out of this historical figure. He lived in the 1400s, very grim and righteous times, but we will give you more details and more information, especially on this guy during our tour.
One of the things I'd like to mention when you look at this photograph is you see that this really is an incredible, interesting country, very full of contrast. You look at the bottom right-hand side, there are cities with ultra, high-tech, great internet, buses, trams, subways, fast-paced like any European city you can expect. Beautiful far left, beautiful architecture as well. That's their national sort of music hall. But also you get step back in time outside of these very modern areas. You step back back into the 300 and 400, 500 years ago, in these beautiful walled citadels, UNESCO cities that have been designated this way because you've got people living back in the old times. You've got old farming techniques, more cattle pulling things than you see tractors, but it's such a fresh country as well. That's what I love, is when you get outside the cities are nice themselves, but I love getting outside because the air is fresh, the food is fresh, the people are super friendly. So as I say, you're going to experience a wonderful, comfortable environment. People, love to see visitors from many other countries, and they're interested to see, what we have to bring as well. So a country of contrast, very friendly and comfortable for your trip there.
Amazing description. Thank you, Dacre. We're always so glad to receive your feedback on how our country has been developing. And what is so fascinating about Romania is that it kept its genuine soul, even though the development of technology, as you just mentioned, went very fast forward, but we still have these traditions, this very well kept traditions, the superstitions, and all this authentic folklore that fascinated, among others, Emily Gerard and via her Bram Stoker. So if we have a look at the itinerary, you see the dates of the tour, which are set to the 1st to the 11th of June. This is the tour itself. Then we have a little extension that we will talk about in the end of the presentation. So there are two options. Either it's 1st to 11th of June, or it could be a bit longer. We get to that right away. So just a quick overview. These are the places that we are going to get to. These are the highlights of the tour.
So without further ado, we're going to go through the itinerary and I will walk you through it. Just the way that Jonathan Harker came into Transylvania, so the first big place that he actually visited was Cluj-Napoca. This is going to be our starting point. The fact that Cluj-Napoca has always been a very important knot in travel and in tourism and in transportation in northern Transylvania, that has not changed much, and the international airport in Cluj-Napoca is very modern and it is very at hand. So you might fly from the States, you might fly from Australia, anywhere in the world, you get connections to get to Cluj. And just like Jonathan Harker, we are going to spend the first night in Transylvania, in Cluj, in this beautiful Art Nouveau city. It is an ecclesiastic collection of architecture styles and has a vibe of its own. It's not only beautiful to look at and to walk around, it also has a magnificent energy because it is one of the country's largest university cities. So that will be our first day, with historical sites, with the vibe of the city. Getting to this guy in the picture, Matthias Corvinus, may ring a bell for the underworld fans that we have in the audience. Corvinus was the name of one of the Hungarian kings. Slightly related histories with Vlad Dracula, but we'll get to that on the tour. Besides getting to know the city a little bit, we are also going to mingle and get to know the participants to the tour, which is always such a fun thing to do. A welcome drink in the hotel lobby, meeting Dacre, and then of course starting to dissect a little bit the Dracula red thread, just as Gloria mentioned, that is keeping our tour together.
May I just quickly add that Cluj may not ring a bell directly as a connection to Dracula, because in the novel Dracula, Cluj is called Klausenburg, and most of the Transylvanian towns that we are going to visit have this double name in German and in Romanian. And this is because of the fact that most of Transylvania was actually founded around the 1200s, at the beginning of the 1200s, by Germanic colonists who were settled there in order to protect the border towards the Eastern powers. So mostly towards the Ottoman, what later became the Ottoman Empire.
That's right. So leaving Klausenburg or Cluj-Napoca on day 2, we head south and we go to the underworld, by the way. This underworld feeling that we are talking about comes from visiting the salt mine at Turda. city, not very far away from Klausenburg. This is an amazing structure, about 3,000 feet deep into the ground, with all sorts of, as you can see here in the picture, activities. You can row a boat inside of this salt mine. You can play pool. You can play darts. There it is just a fantastic underworld. You can have a drink, you can have dinner, you can have lunch, etc. So it is just a fantastic location, going deep into the underworld. Then we will be coming back up, hitting quite high grounds, going to Sekei Rock for lunch. Sekei Rock is also part of the Carpathian mountain chain. After lunch, we had even further south to the town of Sebeş, or Mühlbach by its German name, where we are going to experience some very local, traditional, and interesting things, like perhaps a medieval parade and a fight show, just as we can see Dacre here fencing his way through the Sebeş Knights army. Well done, Dacre, by the way. We will dive into a little bit of local folklore as well, dances and songs. This is usually big, also a part of our tours. Going on to, by the way, I mentioned Corvinus, and this is also one of the castles. It's one of the most Instagrammable places in Romania. You can see the fairy tale looks of the Corvinus castle down in Hunedoara city. And here in this picture, a wonderful memory from last year's tour with Dacre Stoker and the director of the fairy tale castle of Corvinus, Sorin. And we are always very welcome there to visit. And there's always more to find out about the Corvinus castle and about the Corvinus family. Further on, we will be visiting a 17th century Vauban fortress. Actually, in Alba Iulia, we get a mixture of all different historical eras, and we are going to take you. This is the time traveling afternoon, actually. Here we can see, Gloria mentioned also the Germanic influence in Transylvania, which continued on through the Habsburgs and their beautiful Renaissance and Baroque art. On the same day, we're going to visit a wine cellar, which is located right in the heart of one of the citadel walls. So imagine you walk up into the wall and you have a fantastic wine tasting with local Romanian wines. This winery has about 60,000 bottles of wine. It goes like more than 40 feet deep into the citadel wall. It is in itself a fantastic experience. Moving on to day 4, Sibiu, where I live and that I'm really proud of. Sibiu, the city of 1,000 eyes, one of the 7 citadels of Transylvania. 2009, it was the European cultural capital. And I mentioned this, that one of the names of the city of 1,000 eyes. And I'm not going to go too much into that because you're going to see that when you're on tour, or will the houses see you? Moving on from the all-knowing eyes. Oh, this one is a very good picture of our group last year. You can even see Dacre there in the bottom left corner. And you can see my flag leading the group onto the Bridge of Lies, which you are going to hear more about, of course, during our tour. I take this city tour really seriously, and I'm very passionate about it, and you're going to find out all the secrets about the city of Sibiu. And yes, we even have a Bank of Transylvania. I kid you not. It is an official institution. It is a real bank, just like the whole region. Transylvania is as real as it gets. Moving on to a more rural aspect of the day. On day 4, we are going to be visiting CBL, small Sibiu, so to say. And this is the day where we see how people actually live in Romania in the villages. Just a simple rural life. We are going to have dinner at the shepherd's family, like a small inn, and they are always very happy to welcome us. They are a family-run business, very authentic. We will have traditional Romanian dishes, and it is just one of the most genuine experiences that you can have in the heart of Transylvania. On day 5, we are going to visit Brasov or Kronstadt. It is a wonderful city, vibrant city, fashionable city with a very long history. Another one of the 7 citadels that made up Transylvania back in the day. A town of legend and history. Why do I also say legend, not just history? Because here we have the legend of Katharina Ziegel, who is said to have been the mistress of Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula. And I actually am wearing her on my necklace right now. And we are going to find out a little bit more about her family and about the way her and Dracula got together, their love story. This is one of my favorite pictures of last year's tour. All of our group, including Dacre, of course, and we also had Victoria Price with us, Vincent Price's daughter. She won't be joining us this year, but we are planning to have her back in 2025. It was a fantastic day that we had at the Dracula's Castle, Bran Castle, right on the border between Transylvania and the other region of Romania that is located in the south, which is Wallachia, of which Vlad Dracula was actually the prince of, not of Transylvania.
So we'll actually go into detail to show you, as you can see in this image, and then tell you also the connection, the actual connection between the castle that we'll visit, you saw in the previous picture, and this one, which is actually a sketch of that very same castle. This is the castle that Bram Stoker used when he was describing the exterior of his fictional castle Dracula. And it was lucky that this guy called Charles Bonner was an adventurer. He went to Transylvania, wrote all kinds of interesting things that helped Bram describe the country. But this was one of the most significant ones for modern day because, of course, Bran Castle calls itself Dracula's castle. Even though Vlad may or may not have been there, we do know that this image was something that he looked at when he was doing his research. There was one other image of this very same castle by an author named Elizabeth Machicelli. So the location of the castle we'll talk about later in our slideshow, and we actually can visit that later in the trip if you choose to do the optional trip. But this is for authenticity, that this is the picture, this is the castle that Bram used for the model for his fictional castle. Nora?
Going on from the inspiration that Bram took for the castle, we took some inspiration from Bram on the evening that we spent there last year. As you can see in the picture, we had a dress-up evening, which we are hoping to repeat with you folks next year if you join us. And it is highly recommended that you try and pack some of this Gothic attire if you're a fan. This is the day or the night that you want to take your pictures with Dracula's castle in costume.
Added bonus, we actually have the manager on the right-hand side. Alex Priscu is the manager of Bran Castle, and standing in between him and me is Kay Larkin, who came on the trip with us last year. Kay loved the place so much that she actually went and bought a vineyard in Romania. And we are working together with some other investors, branding it as Stoker Wines, the Rothenburg vineyard in the area Della More that Nora has involved in. Oh, she's even showing a bottle because Nora is helping with logistics of promotion of this product. And probably in about a year or so, we'll get production up and out into the Western countries. Right now, it's only available in Romania. But for wine tasting, be it Stoker wines or any of the other wines in the region, is a high part of these trips, because what's not surprising to me now that I've been there so many times is that Romanian wine is becoming very well known around the world. It's really sort of nudging against the Italian and French wines as well. So we'll have a presence of Stoker wines on this trip. There'll be a tasting at one of the stops.
Looking forward to that. Day 6 is yet another huge goth personality, or rather her school, that we are going to visit, because on our itinerary we have the Nevermore Academy from Netflix's Wednesday show. The real name of the castle is Cantacuzino Castle, and it was the filming location of the first season of Wednesday with Jenna Ortega and directed by one of my favorite directors. I'll let you guess who it is. The filming location still has some props there that you can use. Of course, the building is still there, and you can even do a reel or a TikTok or an Instagram feed with the Wednesday props. Our next stop is also related a little bit to Hollywood because it's also been filming location for a couple of movies. And this one is Pellesh Castle, a royal summer residence. Beautiful architecture. We'll have a look at that. Oh, and here a wonderful photo of last year's tour with Kay and Bonnie enjoying a glass of red with a beautiful view from Nevermore Academy. You have the most fantastic view with the mountains right in front of you. Really, really huge, picturesque. It's like a picture perfect location there.
And it does show you, as Nora said at the very, very beginning of the slideshow, the mountains. Mountains dominate this horseshoe. The Carpathian Mountains dominate the country as it comes down. So almost wherever you go, you're going to be on one side or the other, up in the mountains or down, but they're usually all around you, which just makes wonderful vistas.
Going on to day 7, perhaps you've heard of the Transylvanian fortified churches. They are part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, and we are going to visit one of these fortified churches. Really, really beautiful. The architecture is amazing. They served a very specific purpose, and that's why they were built. They were built to protect the inhabitants of the area from the Ottoman attacks, but more on that, of course, during the tour. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but getting back to the German Saxons, they, besides the fact that they were a very education-oriented people, they had also a very developed sense of beauty and of architecture and the style of their building. As you can see in this picture, their houses were also very colorful, so they liked to take care of the little details like that. Even if their life was sometimes gray, so they had to run off to the fortified church and hide, their houses and their souls were always very colorful. Getting back to UNESCO World Heritage Sites, on day 7, we are going to be visiting one of Transylvania's hidden pearls, hidden gems, which is Sighișoara, the place where Vlad Dracula was born. Now, I told you that he was Wallachian, but then why was he born in Sighișoara? And you'll find out all about that during our tour as well. Doesn't look very grim, does it, with all the colorful houses? I think Vlad Dracula would be the last person you think about while visiting Sighișoara.
Some of my favorite parts is when you get to walk through streets like this and notice that people are really living in modern day in these old, medieval towns. That you walk in and you walk by a house and there's a modern television, washing machine. So this is what is so spectacular, is they're living in modern day but set in this old medieval time. It just makes it a really interesting city to tour.
Sometimes you have the medieval drummer passing by in his medieval attire. You have some princess also passing by in a beautiful dress. So it feels like you're mingling with history while just walking around. So it's really a combination of eras.
It really makes the whole thing really, really genuine. It's like you're traveling back in time. We were talking about Vlad Dracula. This is the alleged house where he was born. They even have his room where he spent time as a toddler there. So if you're into reading energies maybe, or looking for ghosts, this might be a good place to start. Getting back to Vlad Dracula, I'm not going to give too many spoilers, but did you know that his father, Vlad Dracul, was a part of the Order of the Dragon? Then, ladies and gentlemen, we move up north again. On day 9, we are going to be in Bistrița. Bistrița was the last civilized town that Jonathan Harker got to see before he went over through the Borgo Pass and to the actual Dracula's castle in the novel. And we can see here a wonderful picture of Dacre in front of the former site of the Golden Krone Hotel, which back in the day used to be a real hotel, which Bram Stoker used in the novel, right, Dacre?
Yeah, we'll actually read a short section of the book standing in front of there to show the actual connection that Bram had to this specific place. It's really cool how you get to do that in a number of places on this trip, to see you're standing in a place, you're looking at the book that Bram learned from it, and you're actually reading a passage from the book that he actually used it in.
It like puts you on the spot, on the actual spot from the novel. It's like your uncle didn't visit Transylvania, You are taking him with your little Bram Stoker bobblehead and the novel.
Yeah, I bring that bobblehead in many places just for the photo ops. It's pretty cool.
Going on to day 10, and this last year for many of our guests was one of the highlights. I don't know which day doesn't have any highlights actually. We are going to be going through the actual Borgo Pass. To many, it might have seemed like an invented place or a make-believe place, but Pasul Bârgăului, which Bram translated to Borgo Pass, actually exists, and it is a fantastic place. Amazing views, amazing vistas. The scenery is just beautiful, and if you're not afraid of heights like I am, you will be able to take one of these pictures up there on the cross monument nearby the monastery of Borgo Pass, just like Dacre, Gloria, and the rest of the gang did last year. In the same area, there is a bust dedicated to Bram Stoker, and this is another amazing photo op for you to take pictures with, for us to take pictures with, actually, and it was put there, of course, to remind us of the location of the fictional Dracula's castle, which we are going to get to in just a couple of minutes.
So this is where we start to split ways, because we will have the itinerary parted into two options. The one option is for those of you who would like to get back a little bit earlier or don't want to join the outdoor experience, the excursion and the hike to the fictional location of the Castle Dracula. Then we organize a transfer back to Cluj or Klausenburg. That's on day 10, where everything ends then for the guests choosing to have the short version of the trip. So this is time to say goodbye for maybe some of our group. And the other option is the extension that you will see described in the program. So this is the extra 2 days of outdoor activities. So traveling from the Borgo Pass, there will be some of us, hopefully, who choose to travel beyond the Borgo Pass to the region of Bukovina. So we're leaving Transylvania, the Transylvanian border, and we reach an amazing place, very beautiful natural landscapes in the Kaliman Mountains. And this is where we are going to be hosted or accommodated for 2 nights. This was a very appreciated experience, right, Dacre, for the guests we had this year, this summer. And this is
Yeah,
where
let me jump in here, Gloria, and just explain that this is the region that Bram left in his notebook. He left specific map coordinates to show where he was going to place the castle, the fictional castle Dracula. So Brasov is about 400 miles away. That's where he used the exterior of the castle, but this is the location where he put it. It was placed there because of right superstitions were here, placed because there was volcanic activity, and that's part of the story that I'll tell you about. But we get to go and stay in a very beautiful rustic alpine B&B, but we do this hike. Now the hike is somewhere, if we can make it all the way to the top, it's about a 3-hour hike up to the top, and that means 3 hours back. It's not really steep hiking. It's no ropes. It's not technical, but it is, that means about a 6-hour up and back. When we go into the mountains, even as you can see in this picture, there's clouds and there's rain, and sometimes there's even, thunder and lightning. We have to make a decision based on the best radar information we have up there. Is it safe to go that long, that far? The picture you saw earlier, we choose to turn back after 2 hours because we did get bad weather reports, and we didn't want to be stuck up in those mountains when there was any thunder and lightning in the area. But we nonetheless had a wonderful time looking at the flora, the fauna. There's an interpretive center nearby that we actually go look at that tells the whole history of the Kalamani National Park. So regardless of if we get all the way to the top in a 6-hour hike, we're going to go up if weather permitting and get some really good experience. And boy, when you come back, you look at the place we sleep, they've got a hot tub, they've got incredible food. It's like a spa resort up in the mountains that going to rest your muscles after a good hike. But I do want people to realize that if you choose this option or you're thinking of this option, you'll have a chat with me and Gloria and Nora and make sure that you're physically capable of doing this and you can get prepared for it at home. doing a bit of an exercise buildup. So you have a very positive experience and you wear the right kind of hiking shoes, right kind of clothes, bring the right stuff in your day pack. So it's a very positive experience. And we do go with registered mountain guide. So we make sure we have, a high degree of safety and knowledge along the way and back again.
Exactly. And there's a very good preparing moment before doing the hike at the, as you mentioned, Dacre, at the visitor center of the Kaliman Mountains. And that's where we meet our local rangers who are also on the hike with us, along with the mountain guides. And there's Dacre putting Dracula where he's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, that's the site where that Bram chose to put his castle, and we've got the authentic notes that I'll be showing pictures of to show that exactly he planned it there. And then, of course, here's your incentive. You do a good day's work and you get lots of really good food. So
Exactly.
that's something I particularly love myself.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the food there is amazing.
Well earned after such a hike.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to tell people, hey, we were in that same area where no movies have been filmed up there yet, although there's a documentary that I have just premiered. And so we'll be showing that as well when we're down in the Airbnb to kind of put the whole thing together in a nice package for you guys.
Before Gloria continues with the description of the hotels that we are going to be staying at, I just want to emphasize all the highlights that we are going to have: Stoker wines, the location, the amazing food, the amazing scenery, Borgo Pass, Cluj, Bran Castle, etc. So just try to wrap your head around that for a moment.
And to make sure that we digest all of these experiences in a very comfortable way, we need to make sure, of course, that we have comfortable hotels. And we like to combine the comfort and the cleanliness that is always a must for our tours with the local feel and the atmosphere, which allows us to get a glimpse of the culture. So we like hotels that have this local flair, just the overview of how the nights are organized. So we try to be efficient with the time, of course. So we want to have things along the way. We want to also have a few nights at a hotel where it's possible to do these day excursions and get back to the same hub, so to speak. So that's why you see one night here and then 3 nights or 2 nights there, and then we have last 2 nights in different hotels, depending, of course, on whether you choose the extension or the optional excursion or not. So this is just to give you a glimpse of the standard of the hotels. And now we move on to the booking part to make it easy to understand where we are right now. We are in the process of getting in booking. So we've started to receive registrations. We have a deadline, which is the 30th of January. This is the deadline when you should have booked via the form that you receive in the follow-up email that we are going to send to you, and also decide on whether you would like to take the optional excursion with the hiking or not. So that's the deadline. And then we want to emphasize that you should not book any flights in connection to this trip until we confirm the tour and your participation. And the booking deposit is of 300 euros. This is non-refundable, which is why it's very important to check your insurance and make sure that you have an insurance that covers a possible, hopefully not, but a possible forced cancellation in case you are forced to cancel. Make sure you book before the 30th of January. And this is an invitation to you who are interested in prolonging your knowledge upon the Dracula Red Thread, the Dracula novel Red Thread, as we're going to have a new talk, another live talk with Dacre Stoker and ourselves next Sunday. So just scan the QR code and register to this if you haven't already. This being said, we would like to thank you so much for listening. Thank you for wanting to travel with us, and we'll see you in Transylvania, right?
Thank you so much for your attention, but mostly thank you so much, Dacre, for doing these tours. Let me tell you, folks, if you want to visit Transylvania, the person to do it with is this guy, Dacre Stoker.
I wouldn't be able to pull it off without you two and all the logistics and everything else. You guys make it happen. So we all have a good time together. Join us if you are bold enough to do so.